Welcome to Java. Thank you kindly for joining me. It's March 28th, 2025, and it is also Friday. I know many of you are looking forward to the weekend, but we've got quite a bit that has been going on. Unfortunately, there is a tragedy again over in the east. If you have not heard of this yet, major earthquake in Myanmar, and it has brought down not only massive buildings under construction, but also some historic ones. The pagoda has really had some serious damage over there. They're still assessing at this time. Now, the reference to it's all coming down is pretty much for everything, including the markets, except inflation. So, as always, let's get started with what's going on in the markets. Now, we are expecting PCE, which is the gauge of core inflation coming out. The daily driver is uncertainty still. We're definitely going to get more inflation. That's absolutely no shock. But how much is the only question? So we've got the bond market showing some serious instability over the past couple of days, but it is being managed because every time there are spikes in the yields, we are watching an immediate suppression. Now, with the fear group meter, it's hovering in the same areas. Retailers are still buying the dip, although much more slowly, much less rapid coming in with their money. Now, we've got the relative strength of the dollars up. So this is also going to pressure markets. It's above 104. And this is finally some strength, relative strength coming into the dollar, flowing back out of the euro as well as the yen. Now we're watching that 10-year yield still hovering around the 4.335 right now. And really what we're watching are the spikes that happen rapidly. But what we've seen also with the 2-year, there have been some spikes in there, but they get suppressed immediately, meaning someone is purchasing all of that debt. Now, cryptocurrencies under pressure again. Bitcoin just above 85,000. As long as it stays above that 82, it's still in the same range between 82 and close to 90. So just kind of bouncing around in this range. Now, with this, we've got the markets set for lower, very choppy, ended lower, weakening, steadily weakening at the moment. Futures pointing to that being a continuance of the theme. Now, the teller here is volatility index rising rapidly, as well as gold hit a new time high overnight. So gold is the telling story here. As I was saying, we're going to start watching gold as master indicator, and it is continuing. It is not pulling back. So that's a massive fear trade hedging for everything going on. So with this, we've got the Fed has said outright that they expect higher inflation and slower growth ahead. And this is really the nightmare scenario. So with all of this, they're also saying that there will not be any rate hikes anytime soon is not what's expected. So we've got Tokyo has exceeding inflation. They are staying on their path for a rate hike. Now, if they hike their rates, it strengthens their yen, it will suppress their markets, but it also drives that shift again. So we've got to watch what they do with their bonds. But if they do a minor rate hike, it could shift a bit of the United States market, depending, as long as they keep saying that it's going to be expected. They pull any unexpected moves, that's really what causes the chaos. So the calendar this morning, we're getting personal spending, personal income, PCE, and core PCE is going to be the large index that the Fed is looking at. So we will be watching that to kind of gauge what the Fed is going to do. Now, at 12:15 and 3:30 this afternoon, we're getting bar, but the big one will be Bostic speaking at 3:30. So that could move your markets as well. Keep an eye on that time frame. CNN came out with this story saying the job market is frozen. That's not a good sign for Doge casualties. Well, it's not a good sign for the economy in general, not just these latest layoffs, but this is the slant that they're putting on it. But we are going to see more unemployment. We're watching more unemployment coming out of Western Europe as well. Germany's still very weak, and we've got a lot of chaos happening between the two. Now, with this rolling up, businesses on pause or paralyzed until Washington's quote unquote fog lifts. This is from Fed President Barkin. Now we've got Collins, as I was just saying, supporting holding interest rates steady for a longer period of time. Now, as they come out saying these things, they're allowing a bit of a window into their next move because they do not want to shock the markets. The markets do not like indecision and they do not like shocks. So, heading over to Europe and looking more into the euro area, their economic sentiment unexpectedly worsens. Again, I don't know what they're looking at that this is unexpected, but it came in under their numbers. So, sentiment is down across the board. The economy is having serious issues, not just in the United States, but Germany is weakening. They've got increasing unemployment. Also, they're saying that's unexpected. That is going to push more of the war efforts so that they can create more of the bombs. Volkswagen now getting into that industry, as you know. Now, we've got one kind of standout here, and it is Italy. Now, Italy is making shifts between their debt, but also their Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, rejecting what they're calling childish choice between Trump and Europe. Now, she is saying that she is going to respect the first ally in the White House while working on avoiding this transatlantic rift. If you kind of play along or see through what is going on, there's quite a bit more than meets the eye, of course, then especially with the mainstream media is beating people. Now, along with this, we've got the other player on the opposite side, and this is Carney speaking for Canada, saying that the Canada US relationship is quote unquote over. So, stark contrast between the two, stark outlooks between the two. He believes that they can hold this and treating this like an adolescent relationship, saying that we're no longer friends, but not really putting any conclusive thought behind uh, the direction that that heads. So we'll see how this plays out. This is all part of this larger game. I'll go into a little bit more of it in a moment. Now, some stock specific things that are kind of going on in the background. GameStop stocks hitting restrictions. They got short sale restricted. And what I want to point out here is what we're seeing the massive speculation going on in here. Now, their shorts volume is near the 2021 short squeeze level. If you remember what happened in the markets back was when the retailer attempted to short squeeze out the hedge funds, and they were quite successful. However, we've got the short sale restricted rule applying for the rest of the trading day and following day, meaning today. So, Malone Wealth president saying that GameStop trading 50 times more shares than last Thursday. And looking into it, this is not statistically possible without naked short selling. Now, if you are not a trader, don't know what that means. That means basically that they're selling leveraged amounts, massive amounts of the stock that they do not own. So, short squeeze is when they're forced to purchase back this stock at a higher price, and that sends the stock soaring, which is what happened last time. And this is how these massive wealth transfers happen. It is just manipulation in the opposite respect. So we had also NVIDIA, the large speak about the CoreWeave IPO for the data centers. Now they were expecting to sell off their IPO shares at 47 to 55, came in at 40, well below their expectation, signaling investor caution. This is showing the true sentiment behind the stock market, despite what they're saying about it being strong and going forward. So, to balance all of this out, we've got more algos, more artificial intelligence traders in this market. We've got Robinhood coming out with what they're calling Cortex in order to bridge this gap. So, always have to understand that as a retailer trader, you are working with your hands cuffed, and you've got to find other ways to kind of make use of this, if you will. Now, I want to speak a little about the 23andMe acquisition. SEI Foundation is saying that since they filed for bankruptcy, they are talking about purchasing the company and putting everyone's genetic data onto the blockchain and giving their private access to it. But let me know in the comments what you feel about having your genetic data put onto the blockchain. I think it's predecessor for other things. Now, going globally and speaking a little bit more about the current real economy, which is a war economy. Make no mistake about it. So, all of the trades, all of the currency wars are far more vast and eclipse what we're seeing with these physical wars, but those are to fill the stories and fill the purpose of the narratives behind this. So, we've got the United States looking for a quote unquote proper way to reconnect Russia to SWIFT. And this is coming from the United States Treasury Secretary Bessent. Moscow asking Washington to ease the sanctions as it steps towards settling this Ukraine conflict. Now, what does this mean? It means they want to get Russia back onto SWIFT is the current payment system. But now that the system has been revamped, they can get Russia back onto it. Russia has already created their own payment system. As you know, if you happen to have been here for a while, if you're new, and what is this heading towards? These are putting in the rails for a one world currency. It is coming. Now, with this, the kinetic wars, suspected United States strikes pummeling Yemen, saying that they are Houthi-controlled areas, saying suspected U.S. strikes because they haven't claimed responsibility for this now. So Houthi-controlled, these are all your enemies. And you have to know this because this is who they're telling you your enemies are, whether they exist or their capacity or not. Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. Department of Justice seizing Hamas crypto. Now, the larger story behind this is that they are seizing more crypto, stockpiling into the United States Reserve after they have been brainstorming how they could possibly get more cryptocurrency in the reserve without spending money. So, this is going to be one way to do it. They're saying it's held in at least 17 wallets. Along with this, United States Secretary of State Rubio now vowing Thursday that if the United States will respond forcefully if Venezuela attacks Guyana. Now, this dispute has been going on for some time now, and this happens to include massive amounts of oil and gas reserves. Now, these are all resource wars. It's all about money, because if money is not involved, they're not interested, or resources of some sort. So I hope you can see a little bit more about what's going on in the background and where this is headed. One other thing of note is that South Africa is now trying to increase relations with the United States on all of this going on. They also have massive reserves. So I'd like to wish you a wonderful weekend ahead. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.